Welcome to Roblox Snippets. In this video we'll talk about attributes. What are they? How can I use them? Why should I use them? Alright, so let's start. If you click on any object pretty much in Roblox Studio and you scroll right down to the bottom of their properties list, you'll notice we have this attribute section with add attributes down the bottom. So you can come down to players, material service, and whatever it is, any object in the game, it'll have this attribute section. So what is it? Well, in our in the workspace, let's create a part, and we'll just change its color to I'll just make mine pink, and we'll come down and we'll just make it a bit bigger, so 5 by 5 by 5, and just move it up a little bit, and we'll just anchor it so it sits there. Alright, so we've got something to work with here. Let's click on our part and we will add a script to our part, and we won't worry about changing the name of it here, but while we've clicked on our part, we'll come down to the bottom and we'll click on the add attribute button, and when you do that you'll notice that this little window pops up where you get to name your attribute, and then you get to choose a type down here. So if you click on the drop down, you'll see all the different types that you can set in this attribute, alright, to make use of. So you can set these manually, alright, and let's say we just change one now. Okay, so let's set one up and we'll make a Boolean here, and we'll say this part is pink. Alright, and it's a Boolean, so we'll go save. And if we have a look, yes, it's pink. So if you want to make it true, you would check the box, and if not, you would uncheck it. So obviously for each different attribute that you create, if you create a Boolean, you'll get a checkbox. If you have a string, you'll be able to type something, etc. So it's the same sort of setup. If it's a vector 3, then it would require you to set one up correctly over here as well. Right, so in our script, we'll have a look at how to create these through code, and we'll get rid of our hello world here, and we'll create a variable for our part itself, so script.parent, and then we'll create a couple of variables. So creating attributes and adding them to the part. All right, so that's what we're doing here. So if you just want to add an attribute to the part and set its value from code, you can start off by typing part and then a colon, and we use SetAttribute. Now, setting the attribute can be used to change an existing attribute. So if I start typing, you'll see this part is pink, and if I wanted to change its value, for example, so if I selected it, I could then change its value by adding a comma, and I could change this to be false. Alright, and if we were to run or play the game, then if I come up into the workspace and click on my part and we scroll down to our attributes, you'll see this part has changed, pink has changed to false now. So I have changed that value, and if I stop the game and we have a look, so click on the part, it's gone back to the default of being true. Alright, however, if we wanted to create a variable within here, then we can simply add some inverted commas and put the name of the attribute that we want to create. So the first one we might do is enabled. Actually, we'll do BrickColor. Alright, so BrickColor. And then we will need to add a value for a BrickColor. So let's pick really red, one that I can remember off the top of my head, and that will add that attribute to the part. Now we can also, if we create, let's say we create another one, and we'll say SetAttribute, and let's call this one enabled. All right, and we will set this to be true, so it's a Boolean. So if you wanted to make use of some of these, or this attribute here, for example, enabled, you want to know if this part was enabled, then you could create a variable down here and call it, say, enabled, And now we can get the value. All right, so if we say part and then instead of set, we say GetAttribute. All right. Now, because we're creating this in code, we need to just type it in. We don't get this to pop up. But we can say enabled, so the spelling and the capitalization is important. We don't have to put a value. We're just, when you type the name here, it gets the value, and then we'll put it into this variable over here. So underneath, we could make use of that in a conditional statement to say if enabled, then, and we can just put a print statement in here, say, yep, the enabled attribute is true. Okay, and if we come up and just run that, then we get, yep, it's true. And if we have a quick look at our part, you'll see we now have 3 attributes that we've added to this part over here. All right. Now, let's say you've got a few in here and you want to make use of them all. If we drop down underneath here, and I'll just comment out that print statement so we don't fill up the output window. And we'll say, if we want to get a table of all attributes for the part, then we can create a variable called allAtts and say part, and get, instead of GetAttribute, you'll notice down here GetAttributes, which acts like getChildren. And then we could loop through these in pairs, allAtts do, and we say print out I and V. And let's have a look at that. And you'll see we get the name and the value, so name and value, name and value. Now, of course, inside this loop, you could go through and add conditional statements to say, well, if it's enabled and if it's true, etc., do this code. So that's one way that you can make use of that, to make use of several attributes to do different things. Right, I'll comment that one out as well, and we'll move down underneath. So now if we wanted to change a property using, so change a part property using its created attribute, then we could just say part, just like we would BrickColor, and then we could say BrickColor.new, and now we just want to get the, remember up here we've created a attribute called BrickColor, so we just need to get that attribute, so part, and we can say GetAttribute, and inside of here BrickColor. Oops, sorry about that, it's a bit annoying. Okay, and let's run the game, and let's see what happens. And you'll see our pink brick has now turned to red. All right, so we've used our attribute to change this color here. All right, we'll stop that there. And if you wanted to delete an attribute from a part or somewhere else after you've finished with it, delete an attribute, you simply need to say part and then SetAttribute and add its name. So in this case, we'll just remove the brick color now that we've changed its color, add a comma and set it to nil. All right. And now just below this, let's check. So we can use this code up the top here. We'll move it down underneath and we'll print. So if we save this and run it, you should see that the brick color has changed. We only have enabled true and this part is pink true down here, and we remove the brick color attribute after it's done its job over here. All right, so they are some very simple ideas of how to make use of attributes. So the main things to get out of this video is to change or create an attribute, use SetAttribute in these ways. To get the value of an attribute, use GetAttribute. So it's fairly simple, and then you can add it into your code in various ways to solve various problems in your projects. So I hope you enjoyed that video, and I'll see you in future videos. If you found this video useful, subscribe now. For more information about my online courses, go to mrbrendanross.com.